Order. Amy, could you please lead us in the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Under the special presentations section of our agenda, Tammy Noble. Tammy is going to be sharing with us the the fact that it is the National Community Planning Month.
Thank you. I'm not used to being on this side of the room, so thank you very much. So our planning group has organized several events for the National Planning Month, including a voluntary event with the National Food Bank that we will be doing, I think, in November. But on a day-to-day basis, we are glad to represent the City of Dublin on current planning projects as well as long-range planning projects. We're engaged with the community, and we enjoy the support of City Council. So we are looking forward to celebrating our month in October, and we appreciate your support.
Fantastic. I have a proclamation here. I'll read portions of it here. Whereas the community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community. And whereas the full benefits of planning require public officials and citizens who understand, support, and demand excellence in planning and planning implementation. And whereas the City of Dublin has always placed a high value on the planning process and the importance that community planning has in the city's overall quality of life. And whereas planning staff is engaged in an area of planning efforts throughout the city, collaborating with residents, business owners, and various stakeholders to address emerging trends and development to ensure Dublin's continued competitiveness throughout the region. And whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories, and whereas the City of Dublin recognizes the many valuable contributions made by the professional community and regional planners across Central Ohio, and extends our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public services by these professionals. Now, therefore, I, Gregory S. Peterson, Mayor of the City of Dublin, on behalf of the entire Dublin City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2017 as Community Planning Month in the City of Dublin in conjunction with the celebration of National Community Planning Month. So, now it's official, right?
It is.
Thank you,
So it is, I'm really pleased that we get the opportunity of the next part of our agenda. The reason, well, one of the challenges of our schedule, our city council meetings always follow in the exact same evening as our Dublin School Board meetings, and we never have the opportunity to attend each other's meetings. And the opportunity that I have to go around, not only our community, but around the region and around Central Ohio and the state, our schools are second to none. And we are so proud of our school system and what you have accomplished and the things that you represent for our community. Chris, will you at Wyandotte with me for the Blue Ribbon? They just got a Blue Ribbon, a federal award at Wyandotte Elementary School. I think it was the 5th Dublin school that has received that award. Continually, repeatedly, where we are at the top of just about every barometer or measure of the quality of a school system. And it is a great pleasure of mine to welcome Lynn May, the president of our Board of Education, and Stu Harris, one of the members of the Board of Education. They wanted to stop by. We are so proud of the partnership and the relationship that we have with our schools. As our school goes, so goes our community. So thank you so much for coming, and if you want to sort of share what's going on in your guys' world, we're really very honored to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor Peterson. We appreciate it. Mayor Peterson, members of council, General McDaniel, City Manager McDaniel, City Attorney Radler, and Director of Finance Muma. Good to see you all. So thanks for your kind words. We wanted to also say thank you, and I want to thank the mayor and our board president, Lynn May. And looking back, it seems to me as if we're on a whole new trajectory that really started, in my mind, with our superintendent, Dr. Hoadley with his collaboration, appreciation, and trust, which, as you recall, because you all are kind enough to attend our teachers' convocation that we start at the beginning of every school year. Dr. Hoadley talked about collaboration, appreciation, and trust. And then I think to the most recent March 2017 State of the City address and Stronger Together, the words of City Manager McDaniel. And I really think with those two leaders in combination with Mayor Peterson and our board president, Lynn May, we're really doing some great things. And we want to specifically thank you for a couple of the great things. We can't list them all in 5 minutes. And some of the highlights that we'd like to talk about today are the Bridge Street project and the $1.5 million stream of funding that we will get every year from the City of Dublin that most recently we're using for our Chromebooks for our 6th graders and 9th graders, and then that will continue forward. And every school, middle school and high school student will have a Chromebook to help them learn. Additionally, all of our school buildings will be connected to DubLink so that infrastructure and technology will just be able to build and build and build on that. Our partnership with the community programs that we do in our school buildings and we do at the Dublin Rec Center, the DYA, all of those programs where we collaborate, whether it's learning, teaching, hobbies, or sports for youngsters, it's a great partnership. Another really, really important part that we talk to our students is our police officers that serve in the buildings. When we talk to them and we talk to the students, that's a trusted figure that students can go to. And as we all know, because a lot of us have children, teenagers below and above, younger, older. This is a challenging time with challenges that our police officers can help give guidance to these youngsters. And then finally, the great infrastructure and their protection and your help with our school buses, in particular, Amy Saleh, helping us make sure they run on time. And with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to President Lynn May, and again, thanks. So.
Basically, we're here to tell you thank you for our partnership. That's the bottom line. Another thing I want to thank you all for is the representation on our Business Advisory Council. This talented group of business leaders is very instrumental in advising us of current and future job trends, helping us educate our students for jobs that don't even exist. So on that note, we have to thank you for your assistance as we plan for the opening of the Emerald Campus next fall. We know that our students will have to be prepared to work in careers that aren't here yet. 21st century learners must have tough-to-teach intangibles such as emotional intelligence, curiosity, creativity, adaptability, and resilience. Critical thinkers will continue to be the most highly valued ones in the workforce. We will most certainly see a future that holds more people with fewer jobs. And that is a concern. So we all want all of our students to be ready. So I'm sure there's many other mutually beneficial partnerships the Dublin City Schools has with the City of Dublin. But we know in the end, it's all of us working together, city and schools and community, that helps raise all of our kids up. So that's why we're here, is to thank you very much, and we appreciate it. And hopefully we can continue to do this once a quarter or something, just pop in, say hello. Thanks.
You know what, Lynn, and it never ceases to amaze me that these are, the school board and council, these are residents. I mean, you guys are just residents that just live in the community, and the strong, steady, constant hand of leadership that you have shown, Lynn, over the years. How long have you been on the school board?
12 years.
Think of all the transformation over those 12 years, and to maintain the level of excellence that you do, it is truly astounding. And as a parent who has kids in the school system, this Emerald, the whole concept is so cutting edge and so forward thinking, and it is giving my kids opportunities that they would not have in any other school district in anywhere near this community. So thank you quite literally as a parent of these students for what you do, and the partnerships are really just fantastic. And I know Christina and Chris attend meetings with you guys quarterly, and the hundreds of hours that you put into this job. Please don't think it goes unnoticed, because we notice.
Indeed. I'd just like to add that, I've said for many years that the schools here, it's an incredibly important part of the fabric of our community, and you guys have done a wonderful job. And in my view, you made a great hire with Doc Hoadley. He's just top shelf, so thank you for that.
So we came to thank you all, so thank you. Have a good one.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much for coming in. Oh, and this is a good opportunity for us we really appreciate your support for Take Back Tuesday, which our second iteration of Take Back Tuesday will be tomorrow night. Chief, Scioto Park, these guys are going to be out there. All you have to do is drive your car into the park, and they will take care of everything else. So there is absolutely no reason to not participate. We really appreciate the support that you guys have given us in helping get out that word, and hopefully we're going to have a tremendous success tomorrow night in getting these cabinets cleaned out. So thank you very much for that, too. Okay, moving through our agenda, I'm going to pull an audible here, and there is an item under the other portion of our agenda that, oh, no, I don't think we have any. We don't have any. Is there anybody who did not sign up on the sheet that would like to make a comment about anything that's not on our agenda? All you got to do is raise your hand, and we'll give you 5 minutes. Hearing none, we will move on. Under the other portion of our agenda, which is at the end, due to some scheduling issues, we're going to move it up, the right-of-way encroachment agreement with Dublin Village Center. Dana?
Okay, thank you. Members of council, this is a request for the approval of a right-of-way encroachment permit for an encroachment of the city right-of-way located along Sawmill Road in the Dublin Village Center. The existing encroachment areas within the right-of-way. However, there's not been a clear delineation regarding the maintenance of the area. You have a new Exhibit A, I believe, at your seats that clarifies that. I think we had sort of a picture. Yeah, in the original report, there was sort of a hand-drawn reference, and we cleaned that up for you. This is commonly known as the clock tower there area, right at Village Parkway and Sawmill Road. The applicant has maintained this stretch of the right-of-way since its inception. As you know, ongoing improvements to Bridge Park Avenue will result in the entire stretch of roadway between Riverside Drive and Sawmill Road being renamed Bridge Park Avenue, including this portion of the right-of-way. And the applicants worked cooperatively with the city on this renaming, so at this point, the wayfinding project can be completed as well in the near future. So the request is for the right-of-way encroachments must be reviewed and approved by the city engineer and city council. The applicant requests a fee waiver of $1,270 for the right-of-way encroachment application. Since the applicant's been maintaining this area for so long, staff would recommend that council approve the fee waiver request. So our recommendation in that of engineering is that we have reviewed the plans and approved the request, finding that the encroachment meets the requirements for approval and a hold harmless agreement has been negotiated. So staff also recommends that council approve the right-of-way encroachment request as well as waive the fee, the associated fee. Thank you.
Any questions from council? I make a motion that we approve the right-of-way encroachment agreement. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ann?
Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Sorry, Ms. Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Lucklider?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo?
Yes.
Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Salee?
Yes.
I also make a motion that we approve the fee waiver. Is there a second?
Second.
Ann?
Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Lucklider?
Yes.
Ms. Salee?
Yes.
Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reiner?
Yes.
Ms. Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Back onto the printed agenda. Consent agenda. Is there any member that would like to have any of the 4 items currently residing on the consent agenda removed?
I would like to have some discussion about the preliminary plat.
Okay. Where would I put that, Jennifer? It doesn't have a number on it.
Other.
I don't need a full presentation, but.
You just want to
I just,
address it now?
yeah.
Okay. We'll stick it under the other portion of the agenda. Don't let me forget to do that. I make a motion that we approve the other 3 items that remain on the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Ann?
Sorry, Ms. Salee?
Yes.
Mr. Lucklider?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan? Ms. Aludo?
Yes.
Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Don't let me forget that. Ordinance 68-17, Ann?
Authorizing provision of certain incentives to Pepper Construction Company of Ohio LLC to induce it to lease a facility to retain and expand an office and its associated operations and workforce, all within the city. Authorizing execution of an economic development agreement.
Colleen?
Good evening. There have been no changes since the first reading, but just to reiterate, Pepper has outgrown its current facility, and they're looking to double in size and add 10 employees. And so the proposal before you tonight is a 6-year performance incentive at 10%, and it is capped at $67,000. It's tied to a 10-year lease for the company. So I can answer any questions that you might have on this proposal. And Paul Francis, who is the president of Pepper Construction of Ohio, is also here this evening, so I'd like to invite him to the podium as well if you have any questions for him.
Welcome, good evening.
Thank you
Good to have
for
you.
having me.
Any comment you want to make or questions from council?
Yeah, just a few comments, give you a little background about our company. So we're a third-generation family-owned business. We've been in business for over 90 years with offices in Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. We do about $1 billion of revenue annually, making us one of the top 50 builders in the United States and the 12th largest in Central Ohio. So we made a full-time commitment to Central Ohio by opening a permanent office in 2006. So we've been here for 11-plus years. And all of those 11 years, we've been proud to call Dublin our home. Started at Metro 5 for the first 2 years and have been at 495 Metro South the past 9 years. Also, I'm proud to say I've been a Dublin resident those 11 years as well, and took advantage of that education system we've talked about, and certainly entertainment and good friends that we've formed here. Proud to say we've grown our business to over 70 full-time employees in Central Ohio. As we continue to grow, we look forward to the opportunity to expand our operations here in the late 2018. Dublin's been a great home for us. And, certainly the investment in infrastructure is something that has allowed us the capacity and flexibility to expand our business. There's a high-quality workforce here that we've been able to attract good young talent, and with the locations to amenities and for our employees, and accessibility has been key, and I think the forward-thinking and innovation that you all provide will help us to continue to grow our business. So as we consider various locations, certainly our operating margins are still tight, so the proposal that you're considering tonight definitely will help us to consider our long-term future here. So I appreciate your time, and if you have any questions about Pepper, please feel free to ask.
Questions from council? So I guess it's your great-great-grandfather that would probably be very proud?
Actually, yeah, I'm not a family member, but yeah, that's the third generation of the family. Yeah.
Any other questions of staff or Paul?
No, they've got a great reputation in the community, Pepper in general. I have some insureds that work at subs, and they like your operation.
Great, thank you.
Ann?
Ms. Salee.
Yes.
Mr. Keenan.
Yes.
Mr. Lucklider.
Yes.
Mayor Peterson.
Yes.
Ms. Ambrose Grooms.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reiner.
Yes.
Ms. Saludo.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Introduction of first readings ordinances 69-17.
Adopting the updated West Innovation District Special Area Plan as part of the City of Dublin Community Plan.
I'll introduce it.
Thank you.
Tammy, it's planning month or something, so you better not screw this up.
I would never think of it. Assuming I can get it to play. So let's talk about planning.
Well, I guess we're going to have all our new technology here inside of 30 days, as I understand it, so
That doesn't help bulbs warm up. I don't
we're
care
we're
how
looking
much
forward
technology-
to all the changes.
Yeah.
Okay, I apologize for the delay. This is an update to a special area plan that we have in the western portion of the city of Dublin. The business district is identified as the West Innovation District, and it's been in place since 2008. The West Innovation District is one of 7 business districts that we have within the city of Dublin. You can see highlighted in blue, it's on the western edge of the city of Dublin. This business district is strategically located along US 33, which makes it a regional partner to our communities to the north, which is Union County and Marysville, as well as areas to the south, which is the city of Columbus. The proximity to US 33 has allocated this area for research and development, of which are the primary uses that we've identified for the district, and is the purpose of this particular update. The ortho that's before you tonight, it's allocated in red, which is somewhat difficult to see. The boundaries are Post Road to the north, US 33 to the east, Shire Rings Road to the south, and Hoocher Road to the west. This area is primarily vacant. You can see to the center portions of the property are mostly vacant, with some development predominantly to the north, which is for the Ohio University campus, as well as some office uses to the east in the corner of the district, and manufacturing uses to the west. The last update that this plan had entertained was in 2008, and we, as a staff, worked with the Economic Development Division to talk about updates to this particular area. And what prompted our request for an update to the area was trends that we were starting to see within the workforce of employees that we were trying to attract to these type of areas within the city. And what we were finding is that we had focused our uses, our future land use recommendations on specific land uses, and we didn't take into considerations the desires or the preferences of workforces that would be choosing these locations. And what we found when we worked with our consultant was that employers and employees are actually choosing locations within the Central Ohio region as well as the United States based on communities that can provide a community that is not dissected towards workforce versus social life, that those two areas of their life blend better, and that they can have those interactions throughout the day and it not be so dissected. So what we discovered with our work with O'Brien Atkins is that we needed to bring those amenities into the area. The other changes to this particular district was the introduction with the Ohio University, which of course brought a whole new vitality to the area, as well as Amazon, and it continued investments within the particular area. This particular planning process started in spring of 2015 and was a 3-phase process. Highlights of that process was a 2-day tour of the Triangle Research Triangle in Raleigh, North Carolina, of which members of City Council, as well as the Ohio University and the Dublin City Schools participated. We also entered into Phase 2, which was primarily a phase where we encountered input from the public. We had several public house opportunities as well as surveys, of which we had excellent responses. And we are now entering the 3rd phase, of which is reviewing the draft plan. Just to gently go over what the Innovation District says today, essentially this district is focused primarily on research and development uses. It creates a 3-tiered process that allows for research and development in densities that increase as you move closer to US 33. This process also created architectural standards, which was new to a straight zoning district in 2008, as well as an expedited expedited review process. Currently, what O'Brien Atkins is proposing for the districts is 9 consolidated nodes of districts that we're proposing for the area. These nodes are identified as uses that are primarily engaged currently, and taking into consideration that we're still promoting research and development, but we want to create those amenities that will attract the workforce that we were speaking of. Just to highlight a few, you can see to the north, the Academic Innovation District is the district that incorporates the OU district, and it talks about how the campus environment can work cohesively with research and development uses. You have Darry Fields to the west and commercial uses to the very far east. As any area plan would incorporate, this plan does have more detailed standards to it, including design standards for architectural requirements, transportation, and connectivity requirements, all of which are posted on our website and available for the public review. This plan was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission on September 21st, 2017, of which there was discussion about the plan, mostly about the process and input that we'd gotten from the public. The Planning and Zoning Commission did support the recommendation to City Council for approval, and we are requesting approval at the second reading, which is scheduled to be November 6th, 2017. So at this point, I can answer any questions about the review process or any of the public meetings that we had to date.
Thank you, Tammy. Questions from council? Chris?
None? Okay, I've got a couple. One question I have on page 24 of the document that you provided, it talks about capacity and investment for the build-out of the project. And it makes an assumption that there is a capacity for $712-ish million worth of improvement on the district, and there's an asterisk next to that. And if you read below in the asterisk, it said it includes $26 million for parking decks. Why are the parking decks spelled out independently of all of the other improvements that would happen?
I guess the short answer would be the information was provided by an analysis that our consultants provided. I would imagine it probably gave the variation for if and when parking decks would be included, but that, again, that's a mere assumption on their analysis.
I guess my question, the heart of my question is that a commitment that the city, is that a city investment of $26 million for parking decks?
No, absolutely not.
It just means that could be part of the development that would happen in that
Yes,
vicinity?
absolutely.
Okay. That was my first question. The second one is, I think that we need to publicize in some fashion that the recreation aspect here remains intact. There's been a lot of dialogue in the community, particularly on social media outlets, about 500-600 homes that might be built in that area and the loss of really desperately needed and heavily used athletic facilities in the community. So I just wanted to highlight that the designation on this plan is for that to be recreation.
That's absolutely true. There's absolutely no changes to the recreational center that we've highlighted for Sports Ohio.
And my third point, and you spoke to it a bit, is about the review process. And I think we've been struggling with utilizing this review process for probably at least the last 3 years, and I think most notably, or the most recent illumination of the review process and desperate need of being updated is in the A1 facility in Bridge Park, and I think that is the most recent example of the review process. So I really would like to see us start to work early rather than later on fixing the shortcomings of our review process and making sure that as we roll out this entire district, that we have a review process that we have a greater level of confidence in.
Absolutely. I mean, at this point, there is a code process. Well, I guess to discuss that a bit, This process has been in place since 2008, so approximately 9 years. Although we're not seeing heavy development in the area, the one particular project, of course, that's the most prominent is the Ohio University. And with this review process, it does default to an administrative process, but it does allow for provisions to be mandated to the Planning and Zoning Commission, of which that project actually was mandated to. So I agree that there's discussion that needs to take place. There's code updates that will follow this particular update process, and we can gladly have those discussions at that point.
I know when we had our joint work session with the Planning and Zoning Commission, there were a lot of notes in here about, really where the responsibility would lie in determining the course of a project. And I think we had a healthy discussion at that point in time, and but I haven't seen any of those revisions come to fruition in form of code changes. And I think this is all really good planning. Thank you for doing that. This is good planning, but without having the administration end nailed down, I don't know that we're going to get as much of what we want, or we may not attract the independent companies because of our review process might not be as streamlined as we perhaps intended for it to be.
Understood.
So some of this promote local-owned small retail businesses in place of big box retail. So is the concept like coffee shops, lunch restaurants, those kind of things, maybe some other retail, as I understand it? Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. Gathering spaces, places that people can step out of their work environments and have social interactions with people, just to engage.
Why would, do we believe that this would be any different than like our Muirfield retail that is basically, much of it's turned into office? I'm just curious about O'Brien Atkins, about their thoughts on, I think it's great, I'd love to see it, but is there enough critical mass there to have it survive?
I mean, in totality, this area is 1,100 acres, so the whole concept of this plan was to create nodes so that you dissect that 1,100 acres into manageable areas where we can create those spaces. So I think that that's generally what they were trying to get at, is to create these smaller spaces where you can create mixed uses and create that diversity of activity that's going on. So I generally believe that's the direction that this is taking.
Okay, I just raised the point, that's all, yeah.
No, it's a good point.
On that Muirfield node you mentioned too, that was, I think that was premature in that the population really wasn't built up there enough to allow and to support all those different functions. That was a number of years ago. Plus the way the thing was screened, I didn't think it allowed.
Yeah, I've heard that criticism over the years.
And I think that's really why.
Nobody knew what was back there.
This is why we were talking again about the last meeting too, about putting those nodes back into the Franz Road area and just making them a lot more interesting for pedestrian use. My comment is, I just want to thank you again for preserving the south side of Route 33 into what may take some time, but we may end up capturing the kind of research or development or office parks that are the things that keep our tax base strong. So
Absolutely.
I'm glad to see that we haven't sacrificed any of that. We're still staying the course, waiting for the next Amazon or whatever to show back up and utilize that area.
Yep.
Thank you.
Quick question, Tammy, kind of back
Yes.
to Chris's point, because I was at the joint thing and I read the minutes of this issue of the review and all that, and you said there needed to be adjustments, or is that something, those adjustments will be incorporated into this? Or, I mean, is this as good a time as any to try to straighten out some of those things, or?
What will actually follow the special area plan is a zoning code update. And what the zoning code update will deliver is basically development standards and process steps that we'll take. So that's probably more appropriate time to be talking about process, although currently this area plan is talking about an expedited review process. It defaults to code for process. So that may be a more appropriate time for that discussion.
Okay, so sort of everybody agrees the system, the review process needs to be adjusted and improved, I guess?
I mean, it's worthy of a discussion, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And this just wouldn't be the best document. And when does that happen that you just described?
We're looking forward to that process beginning the early part of next year.
Okay, so just a couple of months from now?
Yes,
And that review would be addressed there?
Yes.
And is that an entire code review or just the review process? Are you going to bring it back to us in chunks, or are you going to try to get the whole thing finished? I know we've talked about code review extensively, and that project is going to be quite an undertaking. So are you going to wait for the whole of that to be complete to bring the review process back, or can we bring it back? Can we take bites of the apple and swallow them as we can?
The answer is actually both. I will bring this forward as part of this particular update process, but what we will most likely be discussing is a review process that's consistent. If you've encountered conversations with the DCAP or Shire Rings or whichever other plan that you choose to look at, we would like to consolidate some review process that's consistent, but you will be reviewing it under specifically West Innovation District.
I guess I would go so far to say is there's probably not anything else that's more important than we get the review process done right soon. I think it has brought a lot of difficulty, and if we want people to come to this district, and we inevitably have these people that come and make applications, and they're caught with a foot in two worlds, right? In the old review process and the new review process, and it's changing, and we're talking about doing this in the future, but this is where we are right now. And I think if we really want to let the development community know that we are serious about streamlining our process and making it as predictable as possible, I think that it's much sooner than later to get the review process worked out.
So when you bring that forward, is that something you would do at a council meeting, or is that something we would have another workshop for? I felt like we had a really good conversation at the last workshop that we had, and it was very productive, which is, I think, part of what's, leading Chris to her questions with, well, what's the next step? Mm-hmm. So I like to have the opportunity to really focus on it. Mm-hmm. So I would just ask that you consider what is the best mechanism to bring this back to us with.
Absolutely.
I don't think 15 minutes in front of council on a Monday night is the best opportunity to really get an in-depth, bite at the apple.
Absolutely, and we do that at the pleasures of council, so whatever mechanisms to create that environment, we will of course do.
Bam. Great.
I don't know, I mean, is that something everyone is interested in doing sooner rather than later?
Sounds like a good idea to me. There's nodding heads. So can we do that sooner rather than later, Tam?
Sooner rather than later, yes.
I mean, after you get through planning month next week, I'm sure you're going to be busy with
We
that.
have lots of festivities, please.
Okay, is that good? We got everything addressed? Any other questions? Okay, we will revisit that at the November 6th council meeting. Ordinance 70-17A.
Authorizing provision of certain incentives to the W.W. Williams Company, LLC, to induce it to lease a facility to relocate and expand an office and its associated operations and workforce, all within the city, and authorizing execution of an economic development agreement.
I'll introduce it.
Kyle, you do not look like Colleen.
She grew a little facial hair.
Yeah.
Well, good evening, members of City Council. Before you tonight is an incentive proposal between the city and W.W. Williams Company for the relocation and expansion of their corporate headquarters from Grandview Heights to Dublin. The company's current location in Grandview is being redeveloped, and they cannot identify other office locations in their current jurisdiction. W.W. Williams has evolved started out over 100 years ago as a small family-owned business and has evolved into one of the nation's most diversified solutions providers. They provide customers with mechanical service and repair, power generation, and warehouse and logistics. This project would result in the relocation of 63 employees from Grandview Heights, with the addition of 13 new employees by the end of 2023. The company would be required to sign at minimum a 5-year lease here in Dublin for the agreement to take effect. The EDA with W.W. Williams is a 3-year, 12% performance incentive on withholdings collected from all employees from 2019 through 2021 and is capped at $43,300. The city is proposing a $10,000 relocation grant to help offset the moving and fit-up costs. And with that, W.W. Williams agrees to add a total of 76 jobs by the end of 2023. The city expects to net approximately $557,960 over the 5-year term. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions from council? Mike? No. Okay. We will revisit this issue at the November 6th council meeting.
Thank you.
Kyle.
You know, I would add that my mother worked for W.W. Williams right out of high school in 1949, back in the day. So they've been around a while.
Well done. Ordinance 71-17, Ann?
Amending Chapter 35 of the codified ordinances to revise the schedule of fees and service charges for City of Dublin services.
Matt?
Honored is. Good evening, council. Before you is ordinance 71-17. It's the annual update to the city's fee schedule. This year's update is an inflationary update. An inflation rate of 1.2% was applied to the city's cost to provide those services. Utilizing that rate, there were few changes to the fees. Most of the changes that did occur were $10 or less annually. There are two notable exceptions to this that are outlined in the memo to the ordinance, the first being the cemetery plot fee. This fee was increased as a result of Ordinance 41-16 that was approved late last year. And second, there was a reexamination and subsequent increase to the caliper inch fee. This was spurred by a recent discussion at the Community Development Committee meeting. After an examination of this fee, we're recommending an increase from $100 to $150 per caliper inch, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Questions from council? Yeah, it's going to cost more to die.
I had a couple of questions, I guess,
Okay, sure.
if no one else is jumping in. So we have a series of field fees, lacrosse, baseball, cricket, and other things. So I'm wondering, why so much do we call out the field by use rather than by athletic facility?
I guess the quick answer to that is our fields are designed to accommodate specific uses for different types of, or different cycles of the year. So the field use policy for each of those specific uses changes within the market rate, within the maintenance of those fields, depending on the sport, et cetera, that would affect the prices differently.
So I guess the reason that I asked the question is if there was going to be a large cricket tournament that came to town and they might utilize some soccer fields for cricket purposes, then there has to be a determination of what kind of, what their rates are. Are there cricket field rates? Are they soccer field rates? Are they baseball field rates, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, those would be the soccer field rates, primarily because of the demand on our fields themselves in order to accommodate a cricket tournament per se. We would have to either put out the soccer community or add use to those fields, which increases the damage to those fields and then increases our cost. So it's all a perpetuating problem.
That was all. I just was curious as to why we would, make sport specific rather than sport general. Thank you.
Anything else? Anyone? Any other questions? Okay, we will revisit this issue at the November 6th council meeting. Ordinance 72-17, Ann?
Amending Chapter 51, establishing user fees and capacity charges for the sanitary sewer system.
Angel?
Honored is it.
Thanks, Tim. Angel?
Good evening, members of council. Typically, every 2 to 3 years, staff brings forward legislation to amend the water and/or sewer fees. The last change was made in 2015 and covered 2016 and 2017. More specifically, in 2016, water was reduced 25 cents per 1,000 cubic feet, while sewer was increased 50 cents per 1,000 cubic feet. In 2017, the sewer was increased an additional 25 cents with no change to the water fee. The recommendation to modify the water and sewer fees are based on the operating maintenance expenditures and the debt service of each of the two funds, both of which are proprietary, meaning the charges that are imposed of the users are meant to recoup all of, or pay for all of the costs associated with the funds. or with the systems. Historically, the water fund has been financially healthy, while the sewer fund has struggled, largely due to high maintenance costs and a substantial debt service obligation as a result of the construction of the Upper Scioto West Branch Interceptor, which will be paid off in 2018. While this payment will cease, looking forward, the capital maintenance costs are not expected to decrease, with substantial investment needed to continue lining our sewer lines and repairing and rehabbing manholes. These increased expenses don't include the cost of extending the water and sewer lines to our unserved areas, which council has indicated that your intention to fund those using income tax dollars. Due to this substantial expense, staff is recommending a 50-cent increase per 1,000 cubic feet to the sewer fees. We are not proposing any change to the water fees at this time. As mentioned during your 2018 through 2022 CIP process, we are going to be undergoing a comprehensive review of the water and sewer systems in the first quarter of 2018. Even with the increase in sewer fees that I am proposing this evening, sufficient revenues will not be generated to cover the operating expenditures of the sewer fund. For this reason, we are requesting only a one-year rate increase while we have time to conduct this analysis and determine an appropriate baseline rate moving forward to ensure that both systems remain healthy and able to provide the necessary maintenance and upkeep that both require, especially as our infrastructure ages. Additionally, as part of this review, we will be determining the proper measure of fund balance for both the water and sewer funds. As articulated in the staff memo, our targeted fund balance has been based on the historical value of the system's capital assets of 25%. While both water and sewer funds have positive fund balances, the sewer fund is dramatically less than the target at a little over 6.5%, while the water fund remains close at about 19%. However, until we have a chance to review this balance in what is truly the appropriate measure, which perhaps the 25% of the system value is the appropriate measure, we need to have that discussion and analysis. I do not want to draw alarm to these levels. This change of 50 cents per 1,000 cubic feet is expected to generate approximately $84,000 in additional revenue to the sewer fund, while costing Dublin residents an additional $1.65 per quarter or $6.60 per year. We are requesting council approve this ordinance at the second reading on November 6th.
Hey, Angel, do you anticipate at this point that we'll need to have further debt for water or sewer maintenance? Or is that part of what's involved with the analysis?
This does not include anything moving forward. Water, we're not expecting anything. Our water system is healthy, and the maintenance that's required of our water tanks and water systems is not nearly as comprehensive on that side. But on the sewer side, even taking away the debt that we're proposing for the extensions, simply the manhole rehab and the sewer lining and repair that's programmed, I believe it's every other year, is programmed to be issued using long-term financing. Obviously, if we could pay cash for it, we would, but you're talking $1 million to $1.5 to $2 million a year just for that capital outlay. Certainly, the debt service rolling off for that Upper Scioto Branch Interceptor makes a huge difference. That debt service is about $1.6 million per year. So that creates some capacity, and that's actually why you see the fund balance starting to grow a little bit, but we still have ongoing needs that, unlike the water fund, are just going to continue to expand.
So you still feel that there's a gap there even once that debt falls off?
Yes.
So would you do me a quick favor, when you bring the memo back for November 6th, will you just include a quick and dirty little blurb about the debt in there? I like the whole picture. Then one other quick question. Do you know if there are any programs for anyone who has trouble affording their water bills or so on, like they have with things like heating and things like that with, increases? I get concerned for any residents that we may have that may have trouble meeting their bills.
I'm not aware of any, now whether the City of Columbus has any, because just as a reminder, the City of Columbus does our billing.
Right.
And they have their charge, so what we're bringing forward to you tonight is in addition to the charges imposed by the City of Columbus.
Yeah, it might be a good thing just to note if they do have something like that, so that, as we go to look for any rate increases and things, we can let our residents know if they are in need of assistance, where they can go to get that assistance. Thanks, I appreciate it.
No problem.
Angel, can you remind me we're 100% on the maintenance of these items?
Yes.
Columbus does not interface on any of that at all?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
You may not be the appropriate person to ask this question, but I'll give it a shot. So I know in my neighborhood, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, they lined the sewers, and are we getting what we anticipated out of our sewer lining projects? Are they extending the life to the point that we had hoped, for more so, less so?
I'm going to ask our city
I
engineer.
saw a
to
vague
step
thumbs up
forward.
from the back row, but I'm not entirely certain what that means.
All you could do is Fred Hahn and just go, yes.
Yes, the answer is yes. Yes, it's doing exactly what we intended, which is keeping out rainwater, sealing up the insides, and adding some structural integrity.
And is there a limit to the number of times that you can line a sewer?
Yeah, there really is. I mean, you possibly in larger diameter can line again. Smaller diameter, like 8-inch, no. It's really a one-time application.
So what percentage of our sewers have been lined?
Predominantly up in the north to northwest area of our community, where we have vitrified clay pipe. We're probably in the vicinity, I'm going to guess, just off without any verification, around probably 40%, 50%.
And those predominantly cannot be lined again?
Correct.
And the lining lasts about how long?
75 years,
No,
50 to 75.
won't be my problem, okay.
We'll have wireless sewers by then.
Thank you, appreciate that very
On that
detailed,
note-
pertinent information.
Anything else from council? All right, we'll revisit that issue at the November 6th council meeting. Ordinance 73-17.
Authorizing the establishment of the Rings Unit Trust Special Revenue Fund.
I'll introduce it. Jerry?
Good evening, members
Good
of council. Before you tonight is ordinance 7317, which is established as the new fund. So whenever we establish a new fund, we're required by the Ohio Revised Code to pass an ordinance. And then in the case of funds that are not specifically authorized by the ORC, to request from the Auditor of State's Office permission to establish the fund. So the purpose of 7317 is to establish a fund to account for the $1 million donation that is to be received as part of the real estate property transaction with the Robert Rings Charitable Remainder Unit Trust. So the donation is restricted by the unit trust to the purpose of the benefit of underprivileged or handicapped children of the community. So therefore, the donation should be accounted for in a special revenue fund. So upon council's approval of this ordinance, staff will request permission from the Auditor of State's Office. We recommend passage at the second reading on November 6th. And are there any questions on this ordinance?
So essentially, you're encumbering the funds for that use only, so.
Pardon? Yeah.
Any other questions from council? Okay, we'll revisit that at the November 6th council meeting as well. Ordinance 74-17.
Authorizing the establishment of the Property Assessed Clean Energy Agency Fund.
Introduce it. So the principle that I just discussed about the previous ordinance holds true for this one. The purpose of 7417 is to establish a fund to account for the special assessments to be received from private property owners that are participating in the property assessed clean energy program. So the purpose of the special assessments are to repay loans from the Columbus, Franklin County Finance Authority to the property owners for the purpose of funding energy efficiency improvements to their properties. So the city is in no way liable for this debt, and the sole source of revenue to repay the loans are these special assessments. So therefore, it's not considered debt of the city, and these special assessments therefore should be accounted for in a special agency fund rather than a debt service fund. Since they're not, it's not our money, we're just acting as the agent to levy and collect the special assessments.
Questions from council? Chris?
I have a couple questions. So ordinance 6217, this is the fund that will house the dollars as they flow through the city. They
Correct.
come in and we are just a conduit, not a cul-de-sac.
Correct.
And if additional funds if an additional organization would like to utilize this state opportunity funding mechanism, would we need to pass each one of those by ordinance in the future? Or our one ordinance, 6217, met that criteria for several or for a single?
You mean as far as establishing this fund? Yeah, that we could use this fund for any future participants in that program.
So
The
this,
program would have to come forward with new legislation.
with an ordinance per building or per entity that was going to pass that, but all of the funds associated with each of those ordinances that would pass would be housed in this single fund?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I assume we're seeing you back on November 6th as well. Thank you,
Okay,
Jerry.
thank you.
Okay, moving on to the resolutions, 76-17, Ann?
Adopting the Solid Waste Authority of Central Ohio, SWACO Solid Waste Management Plan Update.
I'll introduce it.
Thanks, Tim. Oh, look at this. Megan?
Good evening, members of council. State law requires all solid waste districts and authorities to develop a solid waste management plan and to update that plan approximately every 5 years. The purpose of the plan is to address state-mandated goals and outline programs to reduce reliance on landfilling, increase recycling and reuse, and minimize waste generation. Dublin leverages several of the programs that are outlined in SWACO's plan, including Household Hazardous Waste Day, Consortium for Bidding Solid Waste Services, and Educational Materials, among others. SWACO's draft plan update is comprehensive and covers a 15-year period from 2018 to 2032. They started the update in 2016. The EPA has reviewed the draft. SWACO accepted public comments. They had a public hearing, and now they're at a point in the process where they seek ratifications from the political jurisdictions, and then they will move forward in seeking final approval of the plan from the Ohio EPA. Staff had an opportunity to review the plan and participate in the process, and we recommend approval of this resolution. With that, Kyle O'Keefe, who is the Director of Innovation and Programs with SWACO, is here this evening, and he would like to share a few highlights of the plan and then assist with answering any questions you may have. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Kyle.
Kyle, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight to talk trash. Our favorite thing to do at SWACO. But really here to kind of answer any questions you might have about the solid waste management plan. As Megan stated, this is a kind of both a requirement by the state. Every 5 years we revise this and we really look at needs and opportunities, really ways that we can actually increase waste reduction and more recycling throughout all of Franklin County. I'm happy to say that, today there's more recycling and waste reduction taking place in Franklin County. In 2016, we achieved a 46.5% diversion rate of all the material generated. So that's great, and more communities are using best practices more so than ever. But still, there's approximately 1 million tons of solid waste that's landfilled annually by Franklin County communities, businesses, and residents, offering really a huge opportunity to leverage that material for better uses, better purposes, and to make Central Ohio a leader in sustainability. Some of the things that are outlined in the plan include some new initiatives, really targeted initiatives around these opportunities. In fact, for example, about 60% of the material generated that's actually landfilled comes from the commercial entities, comes from your businesses and your institutions. We're actually in the process of designing and developing new initiatives that will help businesses better adopt recycling practices, start new recycling services, or get training to their employees as well. Some other examples of what's included in this plan are actually a new educational campaign that will be launched next year, really targeted at our communities and residents, working with our municipalities to get more materials in their hands to help them understand what's recyclable, how can I better participate, or if there's a question that I have about a material, where can I find that answer? Another thing that I know has been of interest for the City of Dublin, previous conversations, is around some of these harder to recycle materials. Specifically, food waste is actually one of the largest types of materials in our waste stream today. It composes of about probably 15% of the material that comes to the landfill, which is actually a lot of material. And so currently, there's a lack of infrastructure and services available to divert that material. We'll be working with the private sector and public entities next year to actually find ways to put in place the needed services, the infrastructure, and make that more of a regular practice in our communities. But really, I'm here to kind of answer any questions you have in general about solid waste. We've handed out some folders. In those folders, you'll find an annual report from SWACO from 2016, as well as a number of kind of pamphlets on programs that we offer. In fact, one initiative that's taking place, I believe it's this coming weekend, is the pharmaceutical collection take-back event as well, and there's some materials in there about that. I believe the city of Dublin participates in that as well. So, but overall, I must say that we look to the city of Dublin as a leader, as one of the more progressive communities in central Ohio that sees the value in the quality of life that these types of services bring to our community. So we appreciate working with all of you, and we look forward to kind of continued collaboration.
Thank you, Kyle. Any questions from council? Christina?
Hey, Kyle, it's good to see you. Thanks for
You
coming.
too.
So just out of curiosity, how many of the political subdivisions have ratified already?
I believe we've received probably about 25 resolutions, and I know a lot of them are in progress during these last week or two. The deadline is October 31st. So,
As Columbus?
Columbus, I think, did their consent reading tonight.
Tonight, okay. So just out of curiosity, so that the rest of council knows, 'cause I already know, where does Dublin fall on the township and municipality ladder of best recyclers in central Ohio?
Yeah, that's a great question, and some of that information is included in the plan. And I don't have it off the top of my head, but I would say you're in the top 10 percentile of communities throughout Franklin County in terms of waste diversion as well as kind of waste reduction. We look at both of those categories, and we look at it on a per household level, actually. And so I can get that information to you, but I'd say you guys are up there, and I know a lot of our work through the consortiums and other efforts too, which we'll be kind of evaluating this upcoming year again, really helps to position communities like Dublin to achieve that.
Yeah, we want some bragging rights. That's why I ask. And then I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments. I'm really glad to see that there's a focus on multifamily housing, and I think that there are some planning impacts there. Multifamily housing doesn't typically accommodate for large recycling. It's just the dumpster spaces. So I think it's really great that you've got this in here to do some of those analyses and to work with developers to try to incorporate those spaces into their building. And I do think that that has impact for cities, as well as incorporating those into the design of commercial space as well. So I think that's really important, so thanks for doing that. I really appreciate it. And I know that you spoke to food recycling, but I think another big one that's underserved right now is textile recycling. So I didn't know if you wanted to talk to that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, textiles are one of the fastest growing items in the waste stream, and I believe we reference it in some of these memos and in the plan as well. It's grown by, I think in the past decade, some industry experts think it's grown by 40 to 50%. And that really comes with the fast fashion that's taking place today. And textiles are largely recyclable as well. So in fact, we've been working with some of our local nonprofits, such as Goodwill, who actually recycles all the clothing that doesn't get sold in their stores, to look at new kinds of programs to target communities and actually collect that material, which then in turn is used for, creating jobs and, actually products out of that material as well.
Great.
The Wall Street Journal just did a story about how the Chinese aren't going to take our recycling any longer, and I don't know how that's impacting your thought over at SWACO. And also, the article alluded to the fact that the American population is going to have to be retrained to a higher level.
Absolutely.
And can you say just something about that, what you expect? I've seen it in Europe. I've seen how sophisticated it is and broken down, but is that what we're going to do you think, or?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's pretty fascinating, the world of recycling, actually. What you're referencing is China and what's called the National Green Sword is how they're calling it. And basically a good percentage, overall about 50% of the materials that are recycled in the U.S. are actually exported. China has been a main consumer of those. A few years ago, they put in a similar legislation in China where they kind of banned certain materials, and this is kind of the second wave of that. And it is having effects, and largely it's because of the amount of contamination or the dirty recyclables that are being sent over there. But ultimately, actually I was just talking with one of our main recyclers yesterday, Rumpke, who actually takes all these materials. Yeah, they're a little bit concerned, but not as concerned as some others. A lot of their materials actually stay within the state or surrounding states, so they're not as affected by some of maybe the coastal communities who are exporting largely a lot of their materials. So I think we're going to be a little bit insulated from that. But ultimately, it comes down to having clean recyclables and clean materials. That's what drives the market. And actually, when I mentioned these educational tools that we're going to start offering next year, is really to help work with our residents so they're not putting the wrong materials in the recycling bin. And we can continue to have a cleaner stream of recycling and those materials so we can find markets for them and there's high prices for them. Because ultimately, recycling is a market-driven business. And that's a reality, but it does create jobs, it creates revenues in our community as well.
Yeah, I noticed this one flyer you included in here is very helpful, because if you're sitting there deciding whether you're going to recycle your plastic cups or not, we have this debate continuously in our house over items going into recycling. So I think this is a very handy piece of literature for getting people on the right track.
Great.
It just goes down the line, tells you.
Absolutely, and really next year, I'm excited to hear you say that, and we look forward to working with you, because these materials that we're developing right now as we speak are really targeted at just that, helping to answer the basic questions and help to create really helpful visuals as well for every resident to better participate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Megan, I have a question that might be directed to you. I've also seen some communications about the age of our recycling bins in the city, and I know there was a number of years ago, the city did an excellent job of purchasing the big blue recycling bins that go to the curb. I don't know how many years ago that was. I'm going to say it's probably been 8, 10, 12, something along those lines. Was that a one-and-done program, or are they on, do we depreciate, something like that, where they have a lifespan of that would be replaced, or is that going to be on the resident, or how will that work?
No, Dublin staff routinely maintains those, so as residents have wheels break off or other things happen to those bins, we do maintain those in-house, and then we order replacements as needed. The first batch of them were under warranty for a period of time. I believe we're outside of that warranty for most of them, but we do include budget requests every year for replacements of those bins.
There's a program for replacement, too. If you want a larger size, a smaller size, or whatever, you can make the phone call to Service Center, and they'll take care of it.
Yes.
Any other questions from council? Ann?
Thank you. We appreciate your support.
Mr. Lucklider?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo?
Yep.
Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Salee?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan? Ms. Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Resolution 77-17.
Resolution of Commitment to Sustainable 2050.
I'll reduce it.
Nick?
Good evening, members of council. Before you tonight, you have Resolution 77-17, a resolution of commitment to Morpsey's Sustainable 2050 program. Staff recommends approval of this resolution, and happy to answer any questions you might have at this time.
Any questions from council?
I see it calls for a representative from the city to, have we determined who that representative will be?
We have not, but we have plans to designate or determine a designee in the future.
I was wondering if this might be a good thing for CSAC to undertake. It seems like there's a lot of great initiatives here, and I don't know if it needs to be a staff member or if we could send 2 people or what, but it seems like there's enough meat on this bone that I'd really like to see somebody.
I know Michelle mentioned, we talked about it at the agenda meeting, didn't we? Michelle was maybe going to be involved. I know they're dealing with sustainability and all this stuff, so I'm sure they can work it out, but I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, we had planned to send a staff member, and I don't think that it's a big deal if we doubled up. We can check with them and see. Probably the more the merrier as far as they're concerned. It's a good suggestion to include CSAC members. If someone can get away from work, theirs are usually during the day, and if they can do that, it'd be great.
Yep.
Just seems like there's going to be a lot of great ideas coming through here that we could maybe implement on a number of different levels.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll offer that up to them, and if someone wants to do it, they can make it when they can. If not, we'll cover down a staff, so.
Ms. Salee? Mr. Lucklider?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan? Ms. Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Ms. Saludo?
Yes.
And Mayor Peterson?
Yes. Good news, we've already done the first other agenda item, so now we are down to the process for naming the park at Tuller Flats on John Shields Parkway.
Thought we had a process.
We do,
Matt is
asking if
refusing,
it's
Matt's name is on here, and he's refusing to get up.
kids vote versus.
I can cover that real
Dana.
quick. So really what we're looking for guidance on is whether you want to, there's a policy on how to do that. You can designate staff if you'd like. Our recommendation is to designate staff, and we can use some of the former names and come up with others. You know, we would certainly ask around for anybody, for input. We can go out on social media and ask for input as well. There's lots of ways to garner that input. So it's up to you however you want to go about it.
I suggest we let staff take care of this.
Is that a motion, John?
That is a motion.
Ann?
Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Saleh?
Yes.
Mr. Lucklider?
Yes.
Ms. Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reiner?
Yes.
Ms. Saludo?
Yes.
And Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
It has been determined, though, that it will be a dog park. A dog park?
A dog park?
No.
No.
Okay. There was mention
no.
in here, I guess that was in the meeting minutes.
Talked about a possible dog park.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
Yeah, I thought that was a different one.
We are getting a wonderful new dog park at the Metro Center.
We are.
A very large one.
Yeah. Best in
Metro
town.
Park, yes, excuse me.
Okay, staff comments?
Wait, we've got the Bridge Park preliminary plat.
Oh, that's right.
Reviewed.
See, I said, don't let me forget it, and then I forgot it. Okay, so that is, there's no, it's just approval of preliminary plat, Bridge Park D block.
I don't need a presentation. I just have an observation that I'd like to make. You know, this is where our pedestrian tunnel is going to come across, and it will land at this, and it is adjacent to John Shields Parkway, which ultimately, I believe, is planned to have a vehicular bridge, excuse me, that'll cross the Soda River. And I'm assuming that as part of that vehicular bridge, there'll be some sort of sidewalk for pedestrian crossing there too. And my concern with the plat is this, is that as we look at these drawings, the building footprint comes all the way out to the edge of where it's allowed to be. And we are, by approving this final plat, we're basically excluding the opportunity for any activity to happen along John Shields. So we're going to have this beautiful bridge, we have our pedestrian tunnel, which I believe most people, is where most people will cross Riverside Drive that do, because it's going to be the safest route. And we are going to be putting them in a location where there will be absolutely no street engagement whatsoever. That we will walk, that, you know, there won't be any retail, there won't be any shops, there won't be any outdoor patios, there won't be any outdoor seating, because the building footprint is built all the way out to the extent of its available area. We have this adjacent beautiful greenway that we really aren't going to be able to engage in a meaningful way because there's going to be nothing to do in that space. So it's my last plea. I don't know that that's what we intended to do, but it is in fact what we will solidify tonight. And I just think that John Shields needs to be an active street. There's going to be no opportunity for activity on the street level on this first block of John Shields if we approve these plats that take the building footprint all the way out to the end of the buildable zone. And if I'm the only one that thinks that way, we'll go ahead and call for the vote.
I guess I'd like to hear some reaction, have some conversation. Does no one else feel that that's the case? That there's not enough street engagement there in terms of as we're bringing people across the road and where they're coming from the pedestrian tunnel? I mean, if the answer is no, that's fine, just a response would be great.
I just so appreciate the uses, the Cap Cities and the Rams, where you have some outdoor space for different activities. And maybe they won't be restaurants forever. Maybe one day they would be flower shops or something that I don't even know of yet. But there's an opportunity there because there is some relief from the building footprint not going to the maximum edge of the buildable area, which leaves some opportunity for other things to happen. Along John Shields Parkway, we have no opportunity for anything else to happen on the edge of that building. There's no doorways or entrances of any significance, and that streetscape is not going to be activated. And I suspect that we'll have another $15 to $20 million in a vehicular bridge that's going to come across the river. We have invested heavily in this tunnel so that our residents can traverse Riverside Drive in the most safest fashion. And when they come out of the tunnel on the east side, there is going to be nothing for them to be engaged with. And I think that's falling short of our goal.
Sure.
I'm James Pelletier with EMH&T, here for engineering questions, but also a little bit of familiarity with the buildings and what they're proposing there. I know we don't have it up on the screen here, but along John Shields Parkway, the building, the first floor of the building actually is held back from the property line 15 to 20 feet. And so the second level of that building does go up to the building zone, and that's what you're seeing there. But the first floor is held back where the intent is to have patios and activate that space, especially where the underpass is.
So you're saying there's a cantilevered second story?
It's not cantilevered, there will be columns, but yes, it'll be covered. The first floor will be held back.
But that is occupied by the patio space for the individual condominiums or apartments that line particularly the parking garage, correct?
So up at D2, right, there is the parking garage that does go up to the property line, but the intent with...
And then D3...
D3, actually, those are flipped. So the building at the intersection of John Shields Parkway and Riverside, so you have the parking garage, which is farther east, and so that is right up against the property line for the Greenway. But then as you go closer to Riverside, that's where it opens up. And that building, it's going to have a really neat effect where that building opens up to Riverside, the one at the intersection there. And that's where it's not cantilevered, but it's open on that first level to really activate that space.
And what's the proposed, or what do you think the proposed uses of that space might be in the future? Any idea?
I can't necessarily speak to that. I know they were still hoping to get some sort of grocer in there or something
Okay,
like
so
that.
behind the space is a, all right.
So not specifically for the residents of that unit, that first floor area that you're talking about?
So the building at the intersection of John Shields Parkway and Riverside is specifically an office building on
So
the
that's
second through
the, okay.
And the first floor would be retail, restaurant, or I think the intent hopefully is to be a grocery.
The outdoor dining.
So that would include that open space that you're talking about, that's intended to engage the
And
pedestrian.
So there is a difference. There's the John Shields Parkway open space, which is public, so it won't encroach into that at all. It'll all be within their own property line.
So if you got a mini grocer in there, that would be a potential dining area outside that grocer if you...
Dining or sales or little market area, something to
Okay.
activate that area.
Do you know, and I know you came here for other purposes, but do you know the lineal feet from that setback or the dimension of it by any chance?
From John Shields Parkway, the Greenway.
And the setback of the second story, I'm just curious how big of a space that was.
So the second story is right along the property line, that's the intent.
Right.
Then the first floor is 15 to 20 feet back from the property line.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
Anything? You have
The only thing I
ruler,
would
but
add,
you're pushing your button.
the only thing I would add is that the greenway that goes along the south side of John Shields Parkway remains consistent all the way down to the intersection. And then you have people coming from underground with the tunnel coming up, and there's not a whole lot you can do. People have to come out. And I understand your point about the building coming up to that, but it's also walled. So to have interaction between that east side of the tunnel entrance, and the building itself is kind of not a good option because people are going to have to get around that. But to the north side of, are you talking about building D3 at the corner? I think what
D2 and 3 are the concern.
I guess what he's suggesting is this space that's where the building on that north edge, there's, the second floor comes out over, so you'll have the opportunity to have engagement between the building and the greenway.
Correct.
And the greenway has not yet, that's public, has not been programmed yet. There's much more work to do about that space relative to how are you going to activate that, plan it, build it out as public greenway space. So there's opportunity, I think, between that setback and that building to make stuff happen there. I just don't think from a, I'll call it from a parks perspective, that I know that's not been determined yet. So I don't know that you're giving anything away yet. You can always, the city can always work with that space and figure out how to activate those two things together. Does that make sense?
It certainly does, but the challenge of activating a greenway is to have some activity adjacent to it. You know, if there's an ice cream shop, if there's a, you know, even someplace where you could, a deli that you could get a picnic and you could come to the greenway and you could lay out your blanket and you could have your picnic, or whatever those things might be, it is far more difficult to activate a greenway along a solid wall than it is to activate a greenway that's got some active uses on both sides.
We've got a greenway and then some sidewalk and then some space for sidewalk, first floor sidewalk, cafe space or what have you. So working with them as we figure out what that green space is going to feel like on that corner is probably an opportunity that's not yet been determined. Also, I don't know, Megan, how far along the conceptual designs of the bridge are relative to how the bridge on the other side starts to engage that, other than it's carrying cars and it'll be walkable for sure, but I don't know that it's plaza-oriented or anything like that. On the other side, I don't think the design concepts are that far along to bring to you. But I guess the bottom line is, if you're looking for staff's feedback on that, is there's some square footage there to play with, and I think we got to be, I hear you loud and clear, but conscientious about how those two spaces play together, but it seems like there's quite a bit of square footage there to work with, I guess is my point, so.
I guess those aren't the drawings that, you know, I see before here. If I scale it off, it looks like it's a 1:60 scale.
I think that greenway's got to be, I was trying to figure out the same thing.
The greenway itself is
Consistent,
40
though.
feet,
Right,
which
I was
is a
gonna
really
guess 40.
healthy greenway. That part is fantastic. It's the immediately adjacent to the greenway on the line, particularly with the building D2, is going to be a solid wall that will have no opportunity for engagement. Those will be condos or apartments or whatever they deem is the most appropriate residential unit that's going to be there. And it is a straight line. So I think that makes activating that 40-foot strip of grass, if it were, you know, as it might be, of making it alive and meaningful. And then I believe that the bulk of the Riverside Drive crossing is going to happen at this tunnel. And we're going to have maybe, if I'm scaling it close to right, somewhere 12 to 15 feet to have anything happen.
Yeah, I'm not as close to it as the designer, so I might hurt myself, but I would think when you come down into that corner, that green space changes. So I think the opportunity to leverage more building at the corner can be offset by allowing more access to this green space that you probably wouldn't have happened to the west, so that you get, maybe that's not green space, maybe that's all hard space, plaza space that the building, it all feels a part of that. So
And I don't disagree with you.
That's not determined yet.
And I certainly respect all of that opinion.
Well, I'm not saying it's high level, I'm just.
It's going to, you know, we're going to be figuring out where the activity, which is why we started on this whole journey, we're going to figure out where the activity and how the activity happens after everything else is in place. And
Because I guess my view is, if you want a lot happening at the corner, that better not be green space. That better be pavers or something
Yeah.
that accommodates a lot of movement, like a plots, you know, type of, so that people can move around in there, and you're not like trying to get through tight spaces. You want that to be wide down by that corner, especially as you're trying to get around and into to the tunnel or choosing to cross and go across the bridge. So I do think, yeah, is the issue give up more private space so that we don't have to use public space for that? I think here, more private space as far as the building is a good thing because you're getting, this building I think is going to get more office space, if I recall, which is a good trade-off to give up a little bit of that green space on the corner. That's just.
My criticism isn't about the use. It's about just the planning and the opportunity for the engagement.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, you would need a motion to approve
I
that.
guess we do.
Motion to approve.
Yeah.
Ms. Salee?
Yes.
Mr. Lucklider?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan? Ms. Ambrose Grooms?
No.
Ms. Aludo?
Yes.
And Mayor Peterson?
Yes. Okay, now staff comment. Dana?
Great, thank you. Just very quickly, only one comment, and it's operating budget time for preparation of the 2018 operating budget. I had talked to the mayor earlier, or late last week, about the possibility of using some of your time at your November 6th council meeting to just do an introduction overview of the operating budget, so that when we go to workshop on the following Wednesday, November 8th, we borrow a little bit of time, and then again, the following Monday is the second workshop, which is November 13th. We've done that the last couple of years. We did that with the CIP. I think having Angel do that introductory comments, and if the finance chair's agreement with that as well, I think that's a good approach. Helps us to move along the workshop time. That's all I have. Thank you.
Makes sense. Okay, council committee reports. P&Z, Amy? Administrative committee, Mike?
We have some interviews coming up, I think, with the 1st of November or whatever.
November 1st, Wednesday,
Thank you.
November 1st.
That's all.
Community development, John?
I had nothing.
You have a meeting October 30th at 6 p.m.
I know, but we're all aware of that.
Okay. Finance committee, Mike?
Nothing.
Public services committee, Amy? Dublin Friendship Association, Christina?
Nothing.
Morpsey, Tim?
We met on the 12th. Megan, do you remember anything remarkable?
Is that the
Evidently
entire
not.
report?
I'm sorry, no.
It's been
no,
quite a
nothing-
meeting.
Nothing new.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, who was that? Yes, that's right. I was going to say Tony Collins, but that was the previous meeting. Columbus Director of Parks that was the previous meeting that our own Tony Collins, Dublin resident, spoke. But yes, PUCO gave a special presentation, but beyond that, I don't recall anything that was remarkable.
How about Logan Union, Champaign County Regional Planning Commission?
Nothing.
US 33 Innovation Corridor Group?
We met last Friday at the Transportation Research Center. It wasn't our regular meeting, though. It was really geared more towards the IUC and that group, and to kind of showcase the TRC a little bit. Just a quick story. Dana and I were seated at the same table as a councilwoman from Bellefontaine, and she was in the process of running for re-election. They have 2-year terms, and all 7 council members are up for election at the same time.
Oh.
Yes.
Yikes.
Sounds pretty painful to me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
Thanks, Tim. Dublin Arts Council, John?
I just want to thank the Dublin Arts Council for the fantastic work they did with the Bread Festival. Truly a Herculean effort. They were down 2 staff members and still, the reason I really like working with these guys is that when they do something, they're all in, all the time, all focused, and they really work hard. So they just did a beautiful job, and it was a wonderful day, lots of sunshine, lots of families out, and really nice thing. I can't wait till maybe someday we move that over to the Bridge Street area, if we're going to continue and get it out of the old town and move it over there, because it'd be a great place to host that. But a lot of people showed up for it, so it was really a nice happening.
I'd like to make a suggestion that any future events get scheduled by the Arts Council, because they hit it out of the park 2 years in a row. They have had the best days of the whole year,
The weather?
the last 2 years.
It was awesome. And And then the mayor came in and gave an introductory speech, and you want to tell us what BREAD stands for?
BREAD
other than-
stands for Bake, Reconnect, Educate, Create Art, and Celebrate Diversity.
There you go.
READ.
Good. You got it, buddy.
Yes, it does. It was a great event. It was. Is that it, John?
Yeah, thank you.
Dublin Board of Education, Chris and Christina.
We meet Wednesday, 4:30.
Washington Township, Eric Richter, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Chief, you guys got anything to add from Washington Township? Proud and happy? Okay. Thank you for joining us this evening. Roundtable, Chris?
Thank you for this parking lot site development project update on the Cardinal Health lot. My questions were mostly around the ponds and their makeup and their recharge and their relationship to one another. So if we could get any ideas of, I see that the ponds are being dug right now of, I just want to make sure that we're making very living environments and not really big puddles. So the details of how we're going to achieve that end, if those are available, I certainly would like to see those. Wanted to congratulate our Dublin Women's Philanthropic Club and the Chamber of Commerce on a great Meet the Candidate night. That was really well attended, and folks seemed to be super duper engaged. So thank you for our community relations folks for doing that News in 90. I think that really helped publicize that event, and it was very nice. Greg mentioned before on the 13th, we went to the Blue Ribbon School at Wyandotte Elementary, and that was just fun. It was a beautiful day, and these kids were beaming with pride for their school, and really appreciated that. We had the fall leadership meeting, neighborhood leadership meeting the other night, and was well attended and well spoken. Greg and I got a chance to stop at the PERC meeting afterwards, and I was really pleasantly surprised at the number of people that attended that, and they had some great panelists there that were participating, so that was super spectacular, was fun. That's one of my favorite days of the year, being a city council person, of just having all those kids come by and get to hand them a piece of candy and talk to them about their costume, and that was really well done. The setting was super outdoor like that, and it was
another beautiful day.
It was another beautiful day, in fact, for sure. Had the opportunity on Saturday to go down and speak to the Asian Pacific Islander civic engagement group at Ohio State. And so I had an opportunity to have a discussion, a personal interaction with probably 12 or 14 folks. All save one were Dublin residents, and they were proud Dublin residents, and they were really set to the task of figuring out how they could be involved more in our local government and understanding what local government does. I extended them, I hope it's okay on the behalf of all of you, that they hold this event next time in the city of Dublin, and that we would love to have them right here in their hometown to have it. It was well attended and great questions and a really super group of folks. And the last thing, I would be remiss if I was beaming with pride that our Jerome golf team won the state championship on Saturday afternoon. Congratulations to them, because they set a one-day tournament low score record for the team. They had a great showing, represented our community really well. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Chris. Christina?
Thanks. First of all, my apologies for not being in attendance 2 weeks ago. My flight was delayed by 3 hours, so thanks for understanding. There's been a whole bunch of talk on social media, and I've had 2 or 3 people just reach out to me personally, Heinz, about the crosswalk on 161, the one that's sort of mid-block near Johnson's Ice Cream, thank you. Complaints about people going too fast. And complaints about people not adhering to what's expected of them when someone's in the crosswalk. I shared a link that basically says, if you're not in the crosswalk, the cars don't have to stop. That's state law. But I think there's maybe some confusion about that, and perhaps some additional enforcement or monitoring that can go on in the area. So that's just my request to just keep an eye out for that, particularly for speeders. I think that whole area is challenging at rush hour, and I just want folks to be safe. Again, trunk or treat was great. I loved it. 4 of my kids no longer dress up, so it was really fun for me to see the little ones and I got to hand out candy with both you and with Tim, so thanks for joining me. It was a gorgeous day. And I also found out that my piano is now installed at the pavilion, which I didn't know, nobody told me. It looks really cool. Go out there, go look at it, go play it. It's awesome. It's right in the pavilion in Kaufman Park. I had a great opportunity to judge the chili cook-off, so congratulations to La Chatelaine. They won, I think, both the judges and the People's Choice Award this year, and it was amazing chili, but they were all amazing chilies.
French chili.
It was, they were all incredible, and like, they use like locally grown habanero peppers and locally sourced chorizo. It was phenomenal. I'm really honored to be able to do that. And then coming up is the Citizens Police Academy Class 6 graduation, so I hope you guys can join me. It's been really an amazing experience, and it's gone so quickly, and I've just really, really enjoyed it. And I'd love to be able to share with the rest of council after we're done some of the things, the really important things that I've learned just as a citizen in working with our police officers and going on a couple of ride-alongs. I was very surprised at how much there really is to learn. Like, you think you know what the police do, but you really don't until you have an opportunity to really sit down and talk with them and learn about the nuances of things and all of the training that they go through. So I hope that you'll indulge me and allow me to do that when we're all done sometime in November. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Mike? All good. Amy?
On the speed topic, I think it would behoove us to, as council, understand sort of what the plan is for what the speed limits will be in the historic district on Riverside Drive once we get all built out and the construction is settled down. I know that I personally would like to see the speeds dialed way back in those areas to make it pedestrian friendly, to make it so you don't feel like you're taking your life in your hands when you walk along or attempt to cross the street. Right now we've got some real issues, and I know we've been reluctant to make changes because of the changing landscape and the changing character of the area, but I'm wondering if we could have a long-term sort of vision from engineering and our staff about what's going to happen in those areas with regard to speed of traffic.
If I could, I think we are working on a couple of studies, are we not? On Riverside Drive right now is the focus. And, one thing, I know that there's been a lot of interaction with some of the community and social media and neighborhoods on speed. And, just want to remind everyone, and it's a great point, we need to give you results of studies and those kinds of things, but we don't get to just go out and set up speed limit signs. And I know that's not what you're implying. We have to meet certain, for the good of the community, so they understand we have to meet uniform traffic code requirements in order to lower speed limits. But we'll get you up to date on all things that we're looking at right now and some of where those areas are. And I'll ask Public Works and Police to work together on getting you that report.
I think that would be great. I would be really curious about that. And I know that we do have some limits about what we can do, but there are other communities around Central Ohio who have, successfully dialed back their speeds in their downtowns. And I think we should pursue whatever we need to get the speeds dialed back. I know that there's a balance between moving traffic and having a pedestrian environment that's actually feels safe and comfortable. So that is my interest. If there are nods all around, I hope we can accomplish that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Tim?
Yeah, I agree with respect to the comments regarding the rate of speed in the Bridge Street area, both east and west side. It's been some time ago now, I think, since I forwarded photographs of the crosswalk in Old Worthington. It seemed as though they installed something new in this last year, but it operates a little bit differently from the ones that we have, and I think it's worth taking a look at. It seems effective, at least on the Saturday mornings when they have their farmers market down there in nice weather and so forth. But yeah, I think I reported back to council, it's probably been 2 years ago now, that I used that mid-block crosswalk on a Friday afternoon to attend a funeral over at the Dublin Community Church, and it was a somewhat frightening experience, and I wouldn't cross there. I would go to the light. But anyway, so I support anything that we can do to get the speeds down. And I've had a lot of people make those comments to me. I also wanted to recognize staff, the staff that attended the semi-annual Homeowners Association event last week. I forget what night it was now. Thursday, maybe? I don't know. Wednesday, they all kind of run together. And maybe they do for you as well. But it was really an impressive showing, the ratio of senior staff, to the folks there. I mean, it was just, it truly was impressive. And I meant to send you all an email, but I'm going to call you out now. Josh was there, and Christine, Lindsay, Paul, Doug, Robert, Donna, Angel, Sue, Jennifer, Matt, Terry, Dana, Hines. I don't know if we should have had all that power and authority under the same roof at the same time. I'm from a security perspective, but anyway, it truly was impressive. I mean, I know we all sign up for this sort of thing, these evening meetings and so forth. This being the perfect example, but I really appreciate you all being there. That's all.
Thanks, Tim. John?
No, I just want to select one thing, and again, that was the Spooktacular. It was an awesome effort by the staff. I mean, the hay bale maze, I like to call it Halloween on steroids. It's just the coolest thing for the kids. And, we do a lot for adults in this community, and that's one thing we do that celebrates children. And I think it's very important that we keep it alive and keep backing it. And you know what, this year was the best managed one, too. I think because the Rex, letting the tickets out of the Rec Center for Dublin residents and Dublin School District kids really controlled that crowd, and they moved through really well, and it was just really a well-orchestrated event for, I think the parents had as much fun as the kids, but it was one venue where I could finally wear my Dublin or Die t-shirt and not feel weird about it, but no, just great job, just got to congratulate the staff. They're very creative. Thank you.
Thanks, John. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but tomorrow night is Take Back Tuesday, our second version. We had our first one a week ago yesterday, a week ago tomorrow. And Tim was out there, and it was a terrific success. I want to thank Hines and Nancy and Lindsay. Our staff has gone above and beyond, just like you said, Tim. This is all basically overtime out, this is evenings and it's dark, and people rode their bikes up to drop off medication. I had this elderly woman was the first lady that I came across who had just a huge bag, and she said that her husband had just passed away, and these were all his pain pills that she was getting rid of. So it was, and there were bankers' boxes of pills that were turned in. So we did that well. We can do it better. And so tomorrow night, I hope there are even more people that show up at Scioto Park tomorrow night between 6 and 7:30. And also, I'd like to thank 10 TV. They did on-camera news stories for us the night before. Shelby Croft came out and did some interviews, and then Sierra Johnson was there for the take-back process itself. So I really appreciate the support from them, and please encourage people to join us tomorrow night as well.
And what time is that again, Greg?
From 6 to 7:30. And Hines and all his people are there, and there's people from the Citizens Police Academy are there, and it is really a fantastic event. I got some emails from people today asking, are we accepting volunteers? Because they would love to come out and volunteer and help in this process. So it is, I think we're maybe penetrating that people's conscious and getting them to participate, which is a really fantastic thing. So anything else for the good of the order? We are adjourned.